2015 was a year of ups and downs for democracies across Africa. Nigeria saw its first democratic transition of power in April, when former General Muhammadu Buhari defeated incumbent President Goodluck Jonathan. The polls ended 16 years of one-party dominance. In Tanzania, President Jakaya Kikwete stepped down after his constitutionally mandated 2 terms. John Magufuli was peacefully elected in October after a spirited campaign. And the former public works minister shoveled leaves and trash to mark Independence Day after canceling the usual festivities as part of efforts to abolish waste and reduce poverty.
The new President Magufuli has just started on a wonderful, wonderful note, full of energy, full of optimism, full of action, less talk. So this again is very heartening, especially for countries like Kenya that are just next door, and for the region. Uganda goes to elections in about another month and a half.
Burkina Faso dodged a coup attempt in September and went on to elect the country's first new leader in 27 years. It was a successful end to the transition after mass protests ousted longtime President Blaise Compaoré in October 2014.
I would say that in terms of what we can see and the lessons we can learn in terms of democratic progress is the progressive rise of a responsible society, a society of citizens. You know, the quality of the political offer also depends on the demand, and this missing link is progressively coming by.
But for these highlights, there were also lows. Burundi descended into chaos in April after President Pierre Nkurunziza made his bid for what critics say is an unconstitutional third term in office. After a May coup attempt, protesters taking to the streets, and bloody police crackdowns, Nkurunziza was re-elected in July under a haze of suspicion. Nearly 200,000 people have fled the country. The U.S. has put sanctions on 4 senior officials, both from the government and from the coup organizers, while the UN Security Council has condemned killings and torture. And still, the violence continues. As it has in South Sudan, where tens of thousands have been killed and more than 2 million forced to flee their homes since civil war flared up 2 years ago. Supporters of both President Salva Kiir and rebel leader Riek Machar have accused each other of violating a ceasefire agreement. The peace deal called for an interim administration to be in place by late November, but these plans were delayed. The new target for a transitional government is mid-January. Protests turned violent in the Republic of Congo as President Denis Sassou Nguesso held an October constitutional referendum to remove a 2-term limit in the age ceiling of 70. He won with 92% of the vote, raising suspicion among international observers. And in the Democratic Republic of Congo, President Joseph Kabila is accused of postponing the presidential election, originally set for November 2016, and attempting to amend term limits. Rwanda voted a resounding yes with 98.4% of the vote in a recent constitutional referendum to allow President Paul Kagame to run for a 3rd term in 2017 and possibly 2 more after that. However, Eric Manga, a researcher at the University of Nairobi, thinks Africa would be better off building up institutions instead of allowing presidents to cling to power for decades at a time.
It is high time Africa should forget about this issue of laying their destiny with individuals. We know that we'll always have good ones and bad ones. But if you have stronger institutions, we will be in a position to take the right path.
2016 will be another test for African democracies, with key votes expected in at least 9 countries. Jill Craig, VOA News, Nairobi.